Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us directly after lunch. Thanks for coming to our talk, The Trust Imperative. My name is Colleen Coolidge. I built the security team and program here at Twilio.
And I'm Sheila Jambekar. I'm Associate General Counsel. I'm wearing my lawyer costume today. I head up our privacy program. So let's get started. So the title probably read a little bit like a word salad, the trust imperative, privacy sec. So let's break that down for you. Let's start by talking about trust. So let's just think about the world you live in, your business, your work. How much of your work, your business, your life is in your hardware, on your laptops, on your actual device, versus on a managed service like AWS or Google Drive or iCloud for your pictures? I'm going to guess you're like most of us, and most of your stuff is in the cloud these days. But that means that you've basically outsourced the management and processing of all your data, including sensitive data like PII, personal data, to somebody other than yourself. You've given that over to somebody else. So you had better trust them. Am I right? And if you are like Twilio, and you are sort of part of that cloud, and then you had better convince your customers to trust you. So, and that's where doing privacy and security comes in. Privacy and security are really about trust. And that's why we work very closely together. And in today's changing environment with these issues in the news all the time, it's more important than ever to really do privacy and security at your company. And you have to do it right. That means at a minimum, following the law, or also following additional standards like ISO or SOC. In short, data compliance. But tackling privacy and security can feel daunting. There are so many acronyms. There's GDPR, HIPAA, GLBA, and for you Silicon Valley fans in the audience, COPPA. But you only have so many engineers, you only have so many hours in the day, and so many other demands. However, compliance with privacy laws is really important. It's not that it's just the right thing to do. There are consequences if you get it wrong. As a certain fictional company, Pied Piper, found out when they violated COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, by collecting children's data improperly, it can be extremely expensive, as in the millions of dollars in fines. But these are not just fictional consequences. If you don't do data compliance right, not only could you be subjected to fines for doing it wrong, like Pied Piper, you could find yourself locked out of entire markets, like healthcare, finance, or all of Europe. Because the customers in these markets will demand that you comply with applicable privacy regulations, and they're also likely to demand that they can audit you against those standards. So now it's not just your legal team who's demanding that you get it right and that you follow these compliance regimes. It is also your sales team that wants you to get it right so they can get customers in the door.
Wow, Sheila, that is a lot to drop on us.
Ooh.
And if you're like me, when you hear stuff like this from your privacy attorney, it's a little bit uncomfortable, at least. And then you're thinking, okay, with all the other stuff that we have to do, how are we going to address this too? So today, we're going to be talking to you about how Twilio has approached these issues. And we hope that you walk away with some ideas to help jumpstart privacy sec in your own company and make privacy more doable. So we're going to start off with something that we call privacy sec. We're going to share a little bit of inspiration to you to hopefully kick off your own privacy sec initiatives where you are. But what if you want more afterward? It whet your appetite and you want to figure out, how do I do this for myself? I need more detail. Well, you're in luck. Tools introduced here will be demoed and explained later today by our very awesome security engineers.
So let's start off by what we mean by privacy sec. That probably sounds like a made-up word, because I think we made it up. But what we mean at Twilio by privacy sec, it's the translation of privacy controls into security engineering projects. Bottom line, it's using security engineering to address privacy requirements. Now, disclaimer, not every privacy requirement can be solved with engineering. You have to decide what fits with your situation.
Yes, but you'll want to dig around for these opportunities where they might be. Just think about solving your privacy issues and your privacy needs much the way that you solve your product needs with engineering, if it's possible. And engineering is really good for situations where something has to be repeated over and over again, it's really difficult to scale, or it's just really tedious.
That sounds like a lot of privacy requirements.
Yes.
So privacy laws are all based on the protection of PII, or personal data, or some form of it. So when tackling privacy controls, you have to know what PII you collect and process first, and that will dictate what privacy frameworks are important for your business. At Twilio, it's communications data. At your business, it might be a different form of data. But once you've done that, what do you have to do no matter which data compliance framework applies to you? What do you have to do next? You have to know where the PII is in your system. And this is actually one of the hardest things for companies to tackle, and that's because the speed at which we're developing products, the complexity of the cloud environment, the vendors they're using, and then the mobility of their workforce, because you lose that institutional knowledge when people move around. But it really is the very first thing you have to do once you've identified what PII you're collecting, is you have to know where it is. How can you protect data if you don't know where it is? So I turned to Colleen's team and I said, show me the data map.
Dang, I don't know about you. I really like our privacy attorney, but this is a lot. The security team has a huge agenda for R&D. We already made them go through ISO last year. They did a great job, but we've got more and more on our roadmap. And then she comes in and wants to layer in a privacy agenda. Thanks, Sheila. Appreciate that. All right, so then we think, how do we make this low impact on all of the engineers who are going to be affected by this? They're already doing so much for us anyway. What can we do? So when I'm not panicked about her requests, and I think about it logically, I think it should be, well, engineers need to be spending most of their time shipping and maintaining products that make money for the company, right? That's their primary job. And our privacy attorney doesn't care how we do things, so long as the privacy agenda is satisfied, right? You don't care what we do.
That's right.
So why not give her what she wants in sort of an easy button format so that it's really low impact for us and for engineers? That's the best self that I can bring. But because I'm panicking, really, and there's too much to do, what ends up happening is a panicked thought process of, okay, I know all the roles that we have, and roles is just simply what Twilio calls microservices in AWS. I know all the roles, so I'm going to list them all for her on a spreadsheet, and then with a million columns across, I'm going to put where it's passing through the infrastructure, and is it storing, is it processing data, and no, this is not real data, in case you're wondering. And I feel like it's going to work. It's pretty complete. It took us a long time to compile. It's probably good for her. I mean, does this work for you? Do you like it?
Can we set up like a half-day meeting so you can explain this thing to me? Seems like I'm going to be doing a lot of scrolling to the right and a lot of scrolling down to figure out what's going on here. And are you going to be able to update this on demand, or at least every quarter? Is it going to be able to scale as we get bigger? Are you going to be able to do that? Because we're going to need to be able to do that as well. You know, I'm also having a really hard time figuring out which services are the most important and the highest risk. It's a little two-dimensional.
You're right. You're right. Obviously, I have displeased Sheila. You do not displease your privacy attorney, especially when you have one like her. But I have obviously failed. I've missed the mark. But this is something that security people do, and really just everyone does all the time. Just rely on the old stuff and just get it in there. It'll be done. Well, to really get back into her good graces, I need to make this better. I have to think beyond spreadsheets. And at Twilio, we sometimes find that we can't use traditional tools to solve traditional problems. That's just not how it works for us. But part of it is because we have this incredible speed and scale, which we're moving. We have to build tools that reduce the human factor, that reduced a lot of the manual intervention as much as possible. And this just wasn't it. So think about, how can we automate this? How can we make it better? So to make Sheila happy with this again, I talked to one of my engineers, which is probably something that we should have done in the first place, is talk to an engineer. And this particular engineer, David, created a tool that dynamically represents our PII and how it flows through the infrastructure. Now Sheila will have the benefit of context, scope, and scale. And although this is just a screenshot, I can actually go to the next one and show you a little bit of a run through. But just at first glance, this is way better than a spreadsheet because she can see, okay, there are dots on here that are red. There are other ones that are very big, and there are other ones that have a map of the world that probably looks like internet facing. So it's a lot more intuitive. She knows where to focus in. This tool is called Blackbird, and it is a directed graph. And some more information here. What we can do with this is we can really zoom in and out of our infrastructure. And we can see different microservices, again, we call them roles at Twilio, how they're connected and where we might want to focus our security efforts. We can focus on riskier areas, internet exposure, PII access, and connections. You can click on a particular node here. Gee, there's got to be one that's really interesting. Yeah, that one there. Anything with a map on it, internet facing, could be dangerous. And oh my goodness, it has a ton of connections. That's probably something we should look at. But then, if it's not just the node that you want to look at, maybe you're interested in a team. Maybe I want to see what's going on with voice services, all the roles that they have, and how busy they are. And it turns out they really have a lot going on. There's a lot of connections going in and out of here. Another thing that would be a yellow flag for her, and she'd want to zoom in on it. So yeah, that's frightening, but also helpful. And on the left here, there's a PII panel. And it'll show which roles have access to what PII and how the data flows through the infrastructure.
Ooh,
Yay, she's getting excited. Happier again. So Blackbird is really helpful for these privacy impact assessments that we need to do, that we're going to continue to do every quarter until the end of time. And if we were to do it manually and maintain spreadsheets and send them around to people, that would be really, really tedious for everyone, especially us as the people who have to maintain them. But as a fun side effect to doing this, creating this tool specifically for Sheila, the developer noticed that we can use this to give it to our other R&D teams, our developers. We have them do threat models, and right now that's a manual process. Either they do it manually with a data flow map, or they sit with us and we go through an all-day session. This is something that they can use on their own to get a really good idea of where the dangerous areas are, where they should concentrate their efforts. So they can see things the way that an attacker would. An attacker goes into your area and looks for the juiciest things, and now they have that advantage as well. So it was really helpful for us. So how about that? Is that going to work for you?
That is much better. Wow, that really is like a data map with actual topography. As you saw, we have a complex system, and I'm guessing many of you do as well. But that allows me to really focus in on what are the key, most important services, who I need to go talk to, what do I need to investigate further, and really, where do we need to focus our efforts? Just like with security, privacy is about risk assessment and focusing your efforts in the areas where you have the greatest risk. So that is super helpful. But you can never expect one question from an attorney. Attorneys never stop at one question.
Oh.
And of course, data compliance frameworks, it's not enough just to know where the data is. There's always more. And another very common question for every data compliance framework out there is, who has access to all of those environments where the PII is? And do they all really need that access to do their job? So what's your answer on that one?
Well, normally I would say, you're killing me, we have enough work to do. But the good thing is that this is something that security people ask all the time. We want to know who has access to a particular environment. Do they have a business justification for it? Should they even be there? And then we re-ask that question over and over. So it's important to us, it's important to you, and now we have you backing us up, which makes it even better. It means it's going to happen. But when I think about this request more, it really dawns on me that most of security and privacy that flows through our teams has to do with just enforcement of policy. You know, that the pattern normally is the team is aware of a particular policy or standard, then we become aware that someone stepped out of that standard, we notify them, they ignore us, we notify them again, and it's a lot of effort. It's kind of a negative interaction with the security team, and it's really not that efficient.
It's a lot of nudging.
It's a lot of nudging, and people don't really enjoy that. So we thought, okay, there's really got to be a better way to do this. Why not automate the process of bothering people, right?
Bothering is a service.
Yes, you heard it here first, bothering as a service. We came with that. And so how we thought through this is every engineer uses Slack at our company. Not only that, but they are super responsive through Slack. It's like the lifeblood for all of us. Everyone is responsive through it. So we created a Slack bot, really, actually missed an automation here. So we created a Slack bot to do the heavy lifting for us. So what does that look like? We built this. So now there's this message here when it's time to do that audit of, do you need access to this environment, so-and-so? And the reason why it is asking for a YubiKey is because we do two-factor authentication to this particular environment, and the YubiKey is how we control that. This CloudSec bot, put together by someone on our CloudSec team, Ben, who's hiding in the audience somewhere, this has really made it a lot easier because now he or anyone on the team doesn't have to go around with a spreadsheet or a list of emails and people who didn't respond, people who aren't closing out tickets. Slackbot does the work. And if Slackbot gets ignored, it'll just come back on its schedule and keep bugging the person until it gets done. So why we're really happy about this is it satisfies her requirement and our requirement of regulating access to an environment. Yes, so I upvoted that myself. But we thought about this and thought, you know, we could use Slack bots really to do a lot more than just that. That one request can spur a bunch of other activity. So we could use Slack bots to bother people about all of the irritating, everyday things that require ruthless intervention, consistency, tediousness, all those things that probably would make your job miserable, but make an auditor happy when you do it right. So we could do things like, once we've noticed, maybe you've made a mistake in configuring something. Maybe you've turned off your MFA to AWS, which is a very naughty thing. Nobody should do that. Don't turn it off. But if it's noticed, instead of us getting a notification at 2 a.m., or maybe our eyes have to be on glass to see that, it gets noticed, and then you get a Slack message. And it can be slightly threatening. You can customize things however you need to. The other thing that we can do, too, is, oh, look, you're traveling, but you didn't tell anyone. Normally, you log in from San Francisco or London or Bogota, and all of a sudden, we see a suspicious login from you from the Cayman Islands. Are your credentials stolen and somebody in the Cayman Islands is using them? Or are you just addicted to work when you should be vacationing? And this is a good way for us to do that, especially if it's off shift. If it's 4 a.m., do you want a security engineer to have to wake up, look at this alert, and then contact this person? No, nobody wants that. It's terrible. So automating these everyday things and these everyday touch points not only makes it easier for your team, but it's a better interaction between your security team and the rest of R&D. It's more efficient. And we've seen that it's saved about 2 hours per week overall, so for us and for others. And based on our estimates, it's probably about 100 hours per year that it saves, that you don't have to go chasing people down. It eliminates mistakes. And I'd like you to think, what would you do with an extra 100 hours per year? What would you do? So much. You definitely wouldn't be asking people these questions because your robots would be doing that for you. Good. All right. So we mentioned earlier that there would be a follow-up to this talk because we don't have a whole lot of time to demo the things that we'd like to demo for you. And there would be an explanation of tools to make things a little bit easier for PrivacySec. So we have some engineers here today that will talk to you about that. So their methodology, what problem they were trying to solve, maybe what tools that they were using. You can talk to them about your environment, and maybe they can give you some ideas on how to do this on your own. So who's who over here? All right, we've got David.
David, raise your
David,
hand.
raise your hand. Yay, all right. David's sitting over there, principal security engineer, and he's the one who created Blackbird, the one that made Sheila go, ooh, ah, life is better. And Ben, our principal security engineer for cloud security.
Ben?
Wave. I know
Wave.
you're there, don't be shy. Oh, good. And Ben came up with some wonderful CloudSec bots. And then we also have Ubani and Sean, who I don't know if they're hiding in the audience.
They're there.
Oh,
They're there.
hi. And they're the ones who came up with the CERT bot. So they don't have to be up at 3 a.m. asking you why you're logging in from, I don't know, some country that we don't know.
Indonesia.
Yeah, we didn't know you were going to Indonesia. So come by the security booth and we'll show you our stuff. And back to Sheila.
So we know there's way too much to cover in one session here, but we're hoping that maybe we sparked your interest in trying out this sort of thing at your workplace, taking something that's old, like compliance work, and giving it a new engineering life, making it better. And in case you're wondering, as a privacy attorney on stage, there is no data compliance regulation or rule that says you have to use spreadsheets to do all this stuff that we've been doing for years. There's nothing that's stopping you from using your engineering skills to find a better way to do this. So I encourage you to be creative, finding solutions to these requirements just the way that our security engineers have. And so I think that you'll find that it will work better for your environment, it'll be more scalable, it'll be more agile. So that's all we have for now.
Yep, come by and see us.
And thank you all for your attention. Don't forget to rate us. And when you're done, if you could put your headphones on the seat. That way we know that those ones have been used and they can come around and clean those for the next session. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.